Okay, now you should have um, your three pieces of fabric that you're going to need to make your pillow cover. This is the pillow we're making a cover for, and we've measured it and cut the fabric out. And there's a couple of things to note here. If you're like me and you're not that great with exact, precise measurements, and also in the case that you're working with, maybe like a limited amount of fabric, like I am on this because it's a special piece of fabric. So I want to make sure that it's as precise as possible. So the main thing you want to be looking out for at this stage where you have the fabric cut out and you're ready to start sewing it is that you have three pieces. So here we have one, two, three pieces. So here's the front, right? That's going to be the front of the pillow case cover. And then you have the two pieces for the back. One piece is going to be longer than the other piece. It doesn't really matter by how much, it's just there has to be an overlap. So it's going to look like this, and they're going to fit together in one nice shape. The edges, if you need to trim the edges, you can see I've been trimming the sides because I measured it and laid it out and it wasn't quite exactly. And there were a couple places where I cut a little bit crooked. And if you're like that at all, then, you know, just double check this, the edges, and get it as close as possible. Um, and then you have to, at this stage, I think it's a good idea to just double check how it's looking in terms of the pillow that you're making it for. One thing you don't, there's two things you don't want to have. You don't want to have it be too tight, um, so that the back of the pillow shows through. Even though I don't really mind this, like this is on my couch, the front looks perfect and beautiful. When it's placed the way it's supposed to be, the back, which is also cute, is not showing. But if you turn it over, you see you're like, oh, this doesn't completely cover it all the way. The overlap's not far enough. That's not a big deal to me, but um, that's one thing that can happen if you don't get the measurements kind of just right. And then the other thing that can happen, which I don't have an example here, but I'm sure you can picture, is that the pillowcase that's on the outside is too big and that the pillow inside is kind of like flopping around. So you want it to be fitted, but not tight. And you want it to be loose enough, that everything fits in there and you don't see the inside of what's under the cover, preferably. But again, not the end of the world. Just depends on your preference. But it's really not great to have a case that's too big and the pillow's like flopping around. Like it still looks okay. Still looks nicer than without a case, but there's something kind of unsatisfying about it, and it's not. I don't know. It's hard to put my finger on why exactly. It's just not precise enough. So at this stage, we're going to check kind of how we're doing in terms of getting it to be the right size. So you need to use your imagination here a little bit and think that the pillow is filling this in. And I'm just sort of holding the edges up and just seeing, looks to me pretty close. Um, I think it will be a little bit loose, but I think I'm okay with that. This is a really full pillow. Um, it's like really full. And this is actually the original pillow that came with the bench. So it's like it's like 100-year-old batting inside of here, which is kind of interesting. Okay, so that's just a side note. So it looks like, pretty close. It looks like it might be a little bit too big, but I've already trimmed a fair amount off of this, as you can see from the debris on the table. And I think I'm just going to go ahead and sew it together. So we'll put this aside and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. This is so simple too. So first of all, you want to make sure that before you sew the three pieces together, that the two back pieces, you get the edge. This is why this is so great, because you really don't have to do very much of this type of sewing. You just need to make an edge like this, fold it over once, and just imagine that I have pins. I'll just show you briefly. Fold it over once, And do it again, do this part to the degree that you desire in terms of how you want it to look and whatever. It's kind of like a little border. Fold it over and then fold it over again so that you don't see any of the unfinished edge of the fabric. And just put a pin in there and do that all along the edge. So this is like, imagine it's going to be this thick. Do that on one side of one of the pieces on the back, the piece that will be the part that opens up. So when you have the pillow, which this is the part I'm talking about, it's this back part. So you can flip it over and see that it's finished on both sides. And when it's completely covered, it's like this, right? So it makes a nice sleek edge. So you just need to do that on both sides of the back. And then once you've done that, from there, it's really fast. We're going to just reverse the edges so all the finished sides are facing each other, and then sew together on the outside, and you'll have a complete pillow cover that you made with your own hands. And it's so satisfying because this gives you a lot of control over how the pillows in your home look, and it adds a lot to the display of your home. And it's a really easy and accessible way to make your home more comfortable, more luxurious, and more fitting to what your style is. So I will show you in the next video how I put this together. I'm going to sew it together and put it on the pillow and show you what it looks like as a finished product.